Hi, my name is Laura Vernon. I am the Provost Fellow for Student Mental Health here at FAU. I am also a Professor of Psychology at the Wilkes Honors College. And today I am here with Carole Lachs, who is in the Office of Academic Success Initiatives. And I wanted to talk a little bit with her about what she and her office does and also a little bit about her own personal trajectory getting to where she is. So Carole, could you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure. Thank you, Laura. I'm so happy to be able to speak to you, and I'm excited that we are having this conversation. As Laura said, my name is Dr. Carole Lachs. I'm the Associate Director in the Office of Academic Success Initiatives, and I'm also a three-time alum from Florida Atlantic University. So I am an owl through and through. In my current role at FAU, I work with many first-year experience programs. And currently I coordinate the FAU iSucceed course, which is a 0-credit course that most of the incoming freshman class will be taking starting this summer and the fall. And I am really excited about the curriculum for this course because it's dealing with students and some study strategies, but why are they at FAU and trying to make them belong and feel a sense of belonging while they're here. These students coming in, there's so much going on in the world, and I think they need a little bit of comfort. And I believe this class, from learning about themselves and learning about why they're at FAU and how they belong in our community, will help with their transition socially, with their transition to college, and just make them feel like a better person in today's society. A couple of the other things that I currently do, we are running a pilot program for our our first year interest group program, which is our version of learning communities currently, where students who are in specific majors will take a 1-credit course, and each college has designed the curriculum of what their freshman students need to be successful. So advisors and instructors and faculty members from across most of the colleges are involved in planning the curriculum to get these students connected from the first day that they're on campus. So I'm excited about that program going forward for the fall. And
That's really nice. Yeah. Well, because I feel like that's so important. And it's really hard to do. I mean, when I was a freshman, I remember, my dad was a professor, and even still, I found professors really scary.
They're so
telling you, go meet them, go introduce yourself, go ask to work in their lab, go ask to, and
it's like pulling teeth. They think they're gonna go into surgery, you would think, or we're gonna bite their heads off. I don't think I'm scary. I mean, I'm not scary unless I make a funny face. But yeah, that's huge. And what's even greater is that a lot of the students who are coming in with 0 credits, they're true first time in college students, they don't get a class in their major till they do all the prerequisites or in their sophomore year, their junior year. So having a class connecting them to their college from day one is getting them, excited about starting their career at FAU within their major.
Yeah, that's nice. They get to dive in. I was so anxious to get started with my major, and that would have been perfect for me. I would have loved it.
What was your undergraduate major?
Psychology and sociology. Although, truth be told, my first psychology class, Intro to Psychology, was taught by someone it was his last semester before he retired, and he was phoning it in. He would get up on stage and tell random stories that didn't even feel like they were about psychology. So it made me doubt my major until I took another psychology class, and then that reaffirmed, okay, this is what I love.
Yeah, we tell students similar things. You may just not mesh with your first instructor, but if you still like the topic, go try out another instructor before you decide to change your major, or go talk to that person one-on-one, because what they're doing in the class may be totally different than when you go to their office hours.
Exactly. That's great advice. I love it. I love it. And I interrupted you because I was so excited about your program, but you were going to say that I think you do another program, the first year checklist. Is that what you're going to talk about?
Mm-hmm. So when students come in to college, I'm assuming it's everywhere. My whole 17 years I've been at Florida Atlantic University, but there are so many things for students to get involved in. So we started this about a year ago. It's called our first year checklist. And it's basically a list of mostly academic things for students to get involved in that we have deemed, data has shown that they get involved in and they could be successful. So it's through Canvas. So it's getting them used to the Canvas system, and it's right there. It's a course in Canvas. So when they log into Canvas to do their regular coursework, it's right there up front. And there's things like, have you attended a tutoring session? And it's based on student word, but if they've done it, they click yes, and a green check mark appears that they completed it. So it shows like a progression. Have you attended an FAU sport game? Or this year might be a little bit difficult to complete that depending on how we move forward. Have you met with a peer academic coach? Have you gotten a supplemental instruction? Have you visited the library? So everything we know students need, and they can watch those green check marks just add up. And at the end, it's just something that they can look back on and say, wow, I did a lot my first semester at FAU. I'm going to continue doing these things.
That's really nice because we have so many resources. And I think one of the things that I hear time and time again is that students are simply, and faculty for that matter, are simply not aware of all the things that are available. And so the way you set it up is like this fun sort of scavenger hunt of like, these are all the different puzzle pieces to help you succeed. Go find them and just try them out. And then when you really do get to the point where like you desperately need a tutor at some point, you've already done it once under less stress, hopefully. And now you know where to go and who to see.
Right, and each entry has the information of where to find them, the contact information, and it was a committee that decided, based on research by George Koo, the things that students should be getting involved in order to have their successful, the high impact practices that students should be involved in, joining a FIG or a learning community, going to supplemental instruction, taking an SLS class. So we based it off of that list that we know supports student success.
Oh, that's awesome. So that's my little like near and dear to my little researcher heart that you based it on research findings.
Oh, we have to because we know it works.
Right. That makes me so happy. Can you say a little more about like when you and I were talking some weeks back about iSucceed, it sounded like there was a fair amount of psychology in there too. What kinds of psychology things are in there?
So we're basing the class on positive psychology and different avenues that relate to positive psychology. That's become a real passion of mine. So when I got the opportunity to think of a brand new class at FAU, I brought this to our curriculum committee to said, I've been doing a lot of research in positive psychology because I think that's what our students need and what the world needs. So the more students we can get introduced to this way of thinking, I think it will benefit everybody in the long run. So areas of character strengths, so we use the VIA character strengths that you could take a free assessment online. We do a lot about growth and fixed mindset and mindset in general. We do things about external and internal intrinsic and external motivation. We talk about metacognition, because they're coming into college and the way they thought in high school, and now they need to question how they think because something may not have worked, something that worked in high school may not work anymore in college. So we have them questioning. So the class is set up into different modules, and in the beginning of each module, it assesses what you currently know or what you currently do. They do some readings, they listen to some lectures. We have some interactive game type things that we worked really closely with e-learning. They've been so supportive throughout this whole process, and my instructional designer is absolutely amazing. And through those avenues at the end, we have reflections for the students to write about, and we also have multiple choice for students to select. The part of the class that just absolutely it blows my mind is that this summer about 1,800 students will be enrolled in the class, and then the remainder of the freshman class will be enrolled in this fall. So I am so excited that all these students are going to be exposed to this content and hopefully change the way of their thinking just by being exposed to the information and to how to approach their freshman year.
Yeah, that's really exciting. Oh, I love it. So many of those things are so helpful, and I wish I had had them way back when. That growth mindset was something I didn't learn about until midway into my career. And looking back, it made me realize that if I had viewed each of my little failures as stepping stones and learning experiences, it would have been so much less painful and I would have been so much more successful. And so I love that you are doing that.
Yeah, Carole Dweck, so she came into my life. I don't remember where I first heard about her book, but it wasn't on the basis of positive psychology. I had just had a child. He's 6.5 years old. And I don't know what I was watching, but it was about the way of talking to them, about not just saying, oh, you did a good job, but it was focusing on the terminology of like, oh, you're concentrating so hard on writing that letter and being more specific and more of, if you do it well, you're going to get to the point where you are, you just can't do it yet. So that's
Right.
where I first got exposed to Carole Dweck's work. And then from there, I've taken it steps further and ventured off to learn about the other areas of growth mindset and fixed mindset. And, my whole life growing up, um, I had some stumbles across the way, which we'll get into, but now framing it in the growth mindset, I realized that that's the reason. Somehow my parents instilled in me that that's what needed to be done to get where I wanted in life.
Yeah, and can we transition to that? Because you shared with me your personal backstory, and I found it so inspiring, and I thought it would be so helpful for our students to hear. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So I almost didn't make it to be an FAU alumni, let alone 3 times, but not even once. Graduated high school when I was 17. I had started in New York I think I started when I was 4. So I was one of the youngest graduating in my class. I grew up in South Florida. Extremely close to my family, so I didn't even apply to any other college. I knew I needed to go to college because that's just what you were supposed to do. Both of my parents, I'm lucky that they were both college graduates. So I knew that's what else was I going to do. So I applied to FAU. I was never a good test taker. My SAT and my ACT scores were not that great, but I was in honors classes in high school and I did really well. I was really involved in high school. But when I applied to FAU, it's those test scores. So back then, I guess I'll tell you when, it was the summer of 1995, and that I started FAU. And like I said, I've never left, but I started in now our SOAR program is our orientation program, but back then it was kind of like a remedial gateway course. I came in and I had to take, I probably should have taken both remedial English and math, but I think it was a remedial English, so I had to take a writing class. It was back when universities was still able to offer remedial courses. So I remember I took that class. I took the SLS class, which is crazy because that class is what transitioned to the FAU iSucceed course basically. And I also took, I think it was life science or biology, because of course I was going to be a pediatrician. I mean, you're going to go to school and be a doctor. Of course you were. So I did that. I commuted from Sunrise, so Middle Broward County, way west. And I just traveled, I commuted. I had a part-time job working in the men's department of Sears. And so that was all the way in Plantation. And I had a boyfriend at the time. So I had all these other things going on. And when I started school, it was like, all right, just an extension of high school, but in a cool new place that I got to travel, 45 minutes each way to go to. So I think that first semester, I must have passed because then I couldn't have gone on to my fall semester. I think I got a C and a B in my classes. I remember falling asleep at my 8 o'clock in the morning life science class because it was so far and so early. And then I've transitioned to fall, And what did I start at? I think I started the biodiversity class, also 8 o'clock in the morning class, commuting, not the best choice. I remember, and I can't even believe my parents knew I was doing this. I got a tape recorder. I'd go to class. I'd put my head down. I'd press the tape recorder, and I would record the professor. I think he may still even be at FAU, so I'm not going to say his name. And I went to sleep during class. I remember that class. I also did a sorority recruitment. I was a legacy. My mom was in a sorority, so I just joined the same one. So I was involved in that, still working, still had the boyfriend, and other things were just not as important. I also had some personal stuff going on. My mother's mother was in the process of battling cancer, and she eventually passed away that semester. I was dealing with some emotional things, I still deal with depression, and I'm very open about it because I don't think people should hide, because the more people know, the more people will hopefully seek help. And I was dealing with that, and I was in the process of switching medication, so I had some personal issues going on, and school just it didn't work out. And I don't remember the exact, but now it's different. Like I got put on freshman warning or freshman probation, and then I got suspended. And then I got that letter, and I still have it, and I compare it up to my Ph.D. diploma to students when I meet with them. The dismissal letter from our registrar saying you are no longer welcome back at FAU. Please seek basically other educational, fulfillment or whatever. I should have brought it, but it's in my office and I'm still remote. So I was like, all right, I'm a college dropout. I failed out, but how can I do that? My parents both graduated. I was working at Sears. I didn't want to do that for the rest of my life because my dad is a lifetimer. Even though he's a college degree, he ended up working sales and retail his whole life. So I heard about the Art Institute of Fort Lauderdale, and I actually, let me back up a little bit. So I applied at Broward College. It was BCC at the time. So the semester right after, they denied me. The state college or the community college denied me because I had failed out my freshman year, and because of they didn't see a plan in place of how I was going to make myself better. They knew about my medication not being stable, and they said until you stabilize your medicine and till you think that you can be successful, we're not going to allow you back in. So at that time, I then said, all right, great. I tried back at FAU, and I tried to petition back at FAU to get in there, and they basically said the same thing. And I said, I can't even get into Broward College. Please let me come back here. Nope. So my next step was the Art Institute. And at the time, I really loved the topic of fashion. I wanted to be an event planner and move to New York City. So I thought, all right, pediatrician's not going to do that. I'm going to be an event planner. So I went to the Art Institute, and I started in August of '96. And I think that changed my whole life in regards to education, because I wasn't sitting in the classroom. I did have to take of course, none of the credits from FAU transferred. So I had to take the English and the math, but it's a lot easier, a lot smaller classes. And because my major, my A degree is in fashion, my homework was going to the mall and looking at fabrics and looking at buying when you still had to go to shows and buy. My volunteer and intern experiences were putting on fashion shows in South Beach and working with the models to organize what they want, and working with some of the designers. I mean, it was so amazing. It's really, really good educational to show if you're passionate about something, it doesn't seem like school anymore. You're passionate about something, and it just like if you're passionate about your job, it doesn't seem like a job. So I graduated the Art Institute in December of 1997. I had switched to working to be in Macy's to be more higher end fashion at that time. Instead of Sears, I worked in the men's department, which was cool because I was helping guys like find clothes to go out on dates on, and, you know, helping dads and, you know, with their sons and suits and all of that. So that was really fun. And I said, okay, the next step, I'm going to be a manager at Macy's. How cool is that, to just be in charge of the whole building? I applied to the management program. And even though my uncle was really good friends with the store manager said, no, you're too young. You don't have what it takes to be a manager. So I was like, all right. So now I was a college dropout. I can't even move up in my sales position. What am I going to do? So I continued working at Macy's for a sales position, and I tried back at FAU one more time. And because I had been out for over a year, they allowed me to reapply, and they saw how well I did at the Art Institute, and they let me back in. Of course, none of those credits transferred back over, so I had to start over. So I was still paying my student loans at the Art Institute, and I actually am still paying my student loans to the Art Institute from 1997 because I deferred them when I was getting my Ph.D. So I started over as a communication major where I didn't have to take all the sciences. I didn't have to take the math and all that. And it took me 7 years, but December of 2002, I graduated my bachelor's successfully, had some really great experiences. I was an orientation leader for 3 years. I was a team leader in charge of the orientation leaders. I ran for homecoming queen. I got really, really involved in student life, and the mentors, Dr. Biebergal, she became my mentor, and up until this day, she still is. I ended up working with her for 10 years as a director of one of her programs. And just the people I met, I said, wow, I could be a college student forever. And that's basically what I did. After I graduated with my bachelor's degree, I got a job with Dr. Biebergal, and she hired me to run her learning community program. I did other positions here a little bit, like while I was searching for jobs, I worked in admissions. I actually should say I missed a step. Before Dr. Biebergal hired me, I'm sorry, I worked in program board, so student affairs, so program board, student activities. I worked in that office for 5 years, running their clubs and helping to run their clubs and organizations and put on the events around the campus. At that time, I decided to get my master's degree. So, hey, college dropout, go to free college. I was sitting there, so I decided to get my master's degree. And once I graduated with my master's degree, that's when I started to work for Dr. Biebergal, and had a really great experience. And once again, said, all right, I'm still here, I'm not going anywhere. What's the next step? It's like, all right, let's apply for my PhD. And I applied. I took the thousands of dollars of the GMAT or the GRE prep course that FAU offers. And I went because I knew my test scores weren't strong enough, and applied, and I got denied. So I did my interview. I did everything, thought it went really well. And I remember I was pulling up to the gym. It was on the weekend, and my advisor, who I'd gotten to know along the way, she's like, Carole, where are you? And I'm like, I'm about to go in the gym. She's like, I need to tell you something. And she said, your test scores are not high enough for you to get in. And this is even after me taking classes non-degree, and they saw that I could do the work and got A's in that work. They're like, and we think that you need to mature a little before you go into the PhD program, even after already seeing my progress through my master's degree. So I had to take a year off, studied for the GRE a little more, raised my GRE by 1 point after even more studying, and then finally reapplied, and they said, okay, you have the persistence. You obviously want to do this. And so I finally applied, and I got in, and I finished my PhD in 4 years, and I defended my dissertation with no changes. And
wow. When does that happen? That's amazing.
Yeah, I worked really hard, and I don't know if it was growth mindset. I don't know what it was or why I have to do all the things that I do. I just feel like I want to accomplish something. And I think where I am right now and developing the curriculum of the FAU iSucceed course, everything that I've learned about persevering and resilience and getting knocked down and starting all over again has led me to developing this curriculum that I'm really passionate about and that I can share with the rest of the FAU community. So it's not just somebody who's like read in a book, although that is very important, but it's somebody who knows from life experiences and who is a FAU owl, the importance of just keep going. And things are going to be hard, and to realize that, but those hard things are going to make you stronger, because if everything was just given to you, you'd get bored and you wouldn't push as far as you would want to go.
No, I love it. I think that's such a great example of the need to just be determined and keep sort of thinking again about what's the next step and to not be too discouraged when, like you said, you have this initial dream of I'm going to be a pediatrician, and then thinking about more, okay, what do I enjoy? What am I good at? What's the next step? And taking those next steps, which has now gotten you to somewhere that you're uniquely qualified to be in that position. Mm-hmm. And some of the failure experiences and some of the difficulties and some of the rejections are part of what makes you so uniquely qualified to be in your position.
Right. And I also want to say, I didn't do it all by myself. I asked for help every step of the way. Especially I had very supportive parents who got me the help mentally I needed, going to psychologists and psychiatrists. I registered with what we call the Student Accessibility Services. So I worked closely with their team to get extra time on tests, to get note takers. They even were willing to sit with me and go through assignments. I know I'm not a very, I write, but it takes me a very long time to write papers, write articles, write emails. But so I sat with the University Center for Excellence in Writing, and they were able to go through my dissertation line by line with me to make sure that it made sense. So I definitely, where you have to learn not to be scared to ask for help, because that shows that you're also stronger. You need to ask for help in order to get anywhere, and then make sure when those people help you, you show gratitude and appreciation, because they're the ones who help get you where they are, and maybe one day you can help them with something, and that's an exciting part too.
Well, that is really inspiring. I so appreciate you sharing your story and being open about your struggles and helping to sort of destigmatize mental illness and struggles with depression, and just put that all out there, that's part of who you are, and again what helps you have the perspective that you have. And I think it's going to be really helpful to our students to hear about it, to hear from you, to get to take the class that you have designed, the iSucceed class, and some of the other programming that you're working on. So I really appreciate everything that you're doing for our students, and thank you for all your work, and thank you for this interview. It was really fun.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm so excited that we got to connect, and I look forward to hopefully working with you on some other things in the future. Thank you.
My pleasure.